I'm Janice Mount, host of Joy in Our Town. Thanks for joining us today. This program is designed to provide you with information to make a difference in your life and in your community. Today's program, we're going to be talking about important information about how children can protect themselves when approached by a potential predator. So that and much more are coming up on Joy in Our Town. On today's broadcast, we're talking about how children can protect themselves when approached by a potential predator. Our guest today is Jay Charnas. Let me tell you a little bit about Jay. He's the executive director and founder of the nonprofit APE, Avoiding Predators Every Day. His organization travels around Colorado teaching kids and parents about stranger safety. He has a black belt in Tong Soo Do and has been teaching stranger safety and women's self-defense for the last 10 years. Welcome to the program, Jay.
Thank you very much.
Glad to have you here with us. Well, in this day and age, parents and children must be aware of stranger activity around them. So tell us, in your opinion, what the state of the community is as it relates to children needing to be aware of that.
Sure. It's stranger safety really hasn't changed much in the last 20, 30 years. The classes that we took when we were young, what we were taught when we were young, really is the same. And the reason that it's the same is because the dangers are the same. The only difference is the predators have gotten a little bit smarter. There's a little bit more higher tech around. But again, the issues with it haven't changed at all, and so the importance of putting our kids through the same education on a consistent basis really is no different than what it was.
So some parents might think that with the evolution of the internet and all of the blogging and social networking that opens up their children to more potential predators. Is that a fact?
It does in fact, and it's very important to be able to educate kids on the internet. But the inherent difference is this. On the internet, kids have to do something not smart to get themselves into trouble. They need to give out information or choose to meet somebody. If they don't, if they listen to what we're teaching them about the internet, they're going to be safe on the computer. They might be exposed to things that their parents don't want them to see, but physically they're going to be okay. When it comes to stranger safety, unfortunately, it can come at them without any warning, and there's no control over that. Whether that's with straight stranger safety or when you start dealing with the potential problems of people that they know. So the most important thing is to continue to teach them the straight stranger safety, give them the building blocks as they're young, and what you're doing with that is building their base up. So as they're getting older and they're not around mom and dad or they're on the internet, the safety is still pretty much the same on that.
So we're going to talk about that term, straight stranger safety.
Yes.
Say that 3 times fast
Right.
in just a moment. But do you feel like right now our kids are getting enough education about protecting themselves?
Yeah, I don't at this point. I think that because of the advent of the internet and everything else that the kids go through, that it's kind of a lost art, so to speak. Whereas the problems still exist. We still see across not only our community, but across the nation, we see the problems with strangers coming up to kids, whether it's an abduction or whether it's just trying to coerce them to do things that it is that they shouldn't be doing. And so it is still a big problem. And what we found is that parents are leaning toward the DVDs that come out and the books that come out to do the teaching for them. And you find schools where they never bring a stranger safety program into their school. If they do, it's every 4 or 5 years. Whereas it still is the difference between book smarts and street smarts. And in order to really get good at something, you need to practice it. And practicing it is getting classes, getting people that can come and talk to you, and really getting that education that you need.
And how do we educate our kids without making this a scary topic for them?
That's a great question. The first thing we can do is eliminate the term stranger danger. It's the first thing that I try and do when I go into my class, because when a child or a parent hears the word danger, the first thing that they think of is something that's going to hurt them. It's not something that's going to be okay. So the very first thing that I explain when I go ahead and start the class is that you're going to hear that word stranger a lot. But the most important thing to realize is that there's good strangers and there's bad strangers. Most strangers are good. Most strangers don't want to have anything to do with you. Yeah. The problem is if you put all the strangers in one room, we don't know which are good and which aren't. So our goal is to be able to teach our kids to treat all strangers the same way. And we also discuss that, the difference between being careful and being scared. We don't want our kids to be scared about this. We want our kids to be kids. As I tell parents, let them play in parks, let them go to malls, let them go have fun and do things that all kids like to do. We just want to be careful doing it.
And then how important is it that our parents are involved in the education?
Incredibly important. And that's really the piece that's been lacking lately. When I go to do a presentation, I do it in one of three ways. I either do it to just kids, to just parents, or to parents and kids together. The best one is for parents and kids together. That way the kids get exposed to it and the parents learn. If I had to choose between just giving it to parents or just to kids, I'd probably choose just giving it to parents, because studies show time and time again that you can put kids in a class, the next day put them out on a playground, and they forget everything that they've just learned. Whereas if you teach the parents not only the information, but how to teach the information, then they can get that consistent education at home.
So we can be proactive in teaching our children how to protect themselves.
Absolutely.
Do you think that, as a general rule, parents are either overprotective of their kids, or are they too lenient in allowing their kids to be anywhere and do anything?
I think actually they're both. I think that we're past the days of 20, 30 years ago when you were a kid and you left your house in the morning and you played all day and we didn't have cell phones and you came back at night when it was time for dinner. We don't see that anymore. We can't, because of the community that we live in. And so parents have gotten a lot smarter about being more aware as to where their kids are. But where I think that the protection has lacked a little bit is that a lot of parents have put the onus of education on these DVDs that come out or on the books that come out. And they're not involved with their kids. They're not involved with trying to teach them, with trying to give them the tools that they need to do, and doing it at a young age. Most parents think that they can start the minute that their kids are not going to be around them. So a lot of that education is in the whole process of what we want to do to better prepare them to prepare their kids.
So what do you recommend to our parents that are watching to help them understand how to give their children those gradual freedoms so that everybody in the situation feels comfortable, the kids and the parents?
Sure. What we want to do is we want to start the education young, and we want to go ahead and we want to have the parents go through this with the kids at an early age. So whereas the kids are exposed, we're not giving them all the information at first. We're exposing them to it, but we're not being concerned with it. And so if the parents can get involved with that kind of an education, if they can teach their kids what they need to know, if they have conversations with their kids, then as their kids get older, as their kids aren't going to be around them, they have a more comfortable, a higher comfort level in order to know that, okay, my kids are better suited to be on their own, as opposed to not addressing it at all, putting them out onto the streets and just hoping that nothing happens to them. And I think that's the biggest difference, is preparing them as opposed to just turning your back to it and hoping nothing happens.
So how young is too young, or what age do we start that, and what are some good methods in preparing our kids for that?
Pediatricians say that you should start exposing your kids to this at about 3 years old. Now, I would not do a class of just 3-year-olds without parents around, because you get a lot of blank stares and you wouldn't have any effect on it. But it's that exposure, it's that letting them see that. And then you're supposed to get that done at least once a year to go ahead so they get that education from somebody else. Now, there's two parts to the education. I talk to parents all the time who, after a class, when their kids listened and paid attention and really grasped it, where they say, you know, I teach the same thing to my kids time and time again. And what I explain to them is, unfortunately, being a parent means that sometimes somebody else they need to hear it from somebody else. The kids hear the stuff from the parents all the time, but that doesn't mean that the parents don't teach it to them. As I explain to parents, I have 2 young girls, 8 and 4, and what I don't do is put them on a couch once a week, take my board out and go through a stranger safety presentation, because we know that wouldn't be effective. So the most important ways to teach our kids is very teachable moments, which means that you might have that social kid who never meets a stranger, and when they're in the store they're talking to strangers, and you can say to them, you know what, Mom and Dad were around so it was okay, but if we're not around, this is what it is that we need to do. Or they might be at the zoo or at the mall, and you might be able to say, hey, you know what, if we got lost, what is it that you would do? Or you're in a car driving, hey, if a stranger grabs onto you, what is it you're going to do? And we don't want to become a society of paranoid people. We don't want to be scaring our kids and be inundating it. We just want to keep them aware of it. And if we keep them aware of it, then we can have better success. We teach parents that what we want to do is make this a habit. Okay, we want stranger safety, and what you need to know is stranger safety to be a habit. And in karate and martial arts, I learned that to make something a habit, you have to practice it about 1,000 times.
Wow.
So it shows that you really do need to at least make this a part of your education process with your kids.
So earlier on the program, you referenced the word straight stranger safety.
Correct.
Explain to us what that means.
Well, straight stranger safety is really talking about strangers that they don't know at all. And so what that means is somebody that's going to come up to them on the street. Again, it may be very innocent, they're just trying to talk to them. It may be a stranger that doesn't have the best intentions, but it's somebody that they don't know at all. And what we found is that most of the problems that kids get into as they get older is either through the internet or is through something like people that they're familiar with. But the basics still come down to strangers. You still need to be able to go through that, understand what that is, and then use those tools to take care of yourself with these other dangers that might be out there.
And there could be a scenario where the predator is somebody that the child knows.
Right.
And then how does that differ from the straight stranger safety?
Well, as I still run across parents who still believe that it's a very scary topic, and they don't want to talk to their kids about what would happen if somebody they didn't know came up to them and grabbed them. And what I explain to parents is this: if you think it's difficult to have a discussion with a child and say to them, hey, somebody you don't know might come up and try and do something, it's even more difficult to say, you know what, you can trust your Uncle Joey, but if they do something they're not supposed to do, these are some of the problems that you might have. So the differences are that you're dealing with a child's mindset as to, well, I think I know him, so this might be okay, and that's what you need to be cautious about.
And how do we talk to our kids about protecting themselves or being safe in a situation when they're not around mom and dad?
We give them the tools, and some of those tools that we teach in basic stranger safety, we teach because it starts building their education for when they get older, meaning instincts. We teach them to trust their instincts. We teach them that if something doesn't feel right, it's not right, and we need to tell mom and dad about it. That's something that's going to protect them in case something happens with somebody that they know. Communication, we teach them, hey, we don't keep secrets from mom and dad. The number one way to know if we need to tell mom or dad something is if somebody says, don't tell your mom or dad. If somebody says, don't tell your mom or dad, we know we need to tell them right away. So we start giving them those tools that have to do with the straight stranger safety, but at the same time starts building that foundation, because when you're 3, 4, 5, you're not going to be away from mom or dad or whoever's watching you very often. It's when you get older. So we're building that now, so when they aren't around mom or dad, they're able to protect themselves.
So when I think about children, what can a child do to get themselves out of harm's way when they're approached by a predator?
I teach a class, it's called Child Escape Tactics class. I call it my kiddie self-defense. And we teach very simple and effective moves that kids can do. If they're picked up, if they're grabbed, if they're thrown over a shoulder, kids do have the ability to take care of themselves. Now, we're not teaching kids how to beat up an adult, because we can't do that. All we're doing with these classes is giving them tools to, if they're ever put in that position, to be able to have something that they can delay, or maybe draw attention to themselves, or maybe just get in a situation where the predator says, you know what, this isn't the kind of kid I thought I was coming after, and we can go ahead and get out of that. And so that's the kind of confidence and empowerment that we're giving kids, is knowing that they can do something. They don't have to just be a victim.
Okay, that is a lot of great information. Thank you for that. And we are going to be right back with Jay when we're going to be talking about women's self-defense, how women can protect themselves. So stay tuned.
Where's my husband? Where's my husband?
Never stop.
How's she doing? 2,
She was the passenger. Car was T-boned on the passenger side.
We just had some wine. I wasn't even drunk. I was just buzzed.
What? You were just buzzed? Well, sir, you didn't tell us that. In that case, she's just fine.
Yeah. I'm fine.
Really?
No, not really.
Buzz driving. Maybe we should stop acting like it's no big deal.
In this segment of today's broadcast, we're going to be talking about self-defense for women. A predator can be anyone who's trying to harm us, maybe someone we know or someone we don't know. This can affect children or women. Specifically, we're going to talk with Jay about how this affects women. Why, Jay, is it so important that women understand self-defense?
Because the problem with self-defense or issues that women might come across is that it could be something that they're either somebody that they know or somebody they don't know. And in most cases, it's not something that they're prepared for or they know that's going to happen. So like in anything in life, the more prepared that you are, the more information you have about what you can do, the better you are to handle that. And unfortunately, in a lot of cases, it's just not thought about. So if we think about it, we're better prepared to handle whatever might come up.
That makes sense. So at what age should women start preparing for self-defense?
You know, I started, when I started the organization, putting it out at 15 to 115. And quickly what I found is I had a lot of parents who had 12-year-olds who were going into middle school, which is a completely different society. So it really starts at about 12. From 5 to 12, if they get into situations, it's probably going to be more of an abduction type attempt. It's not going to be an attack, a physical attack. And once you start getting to be 12, 13, 14, the parameters change a little bit. So that's as young as we'll start that.
Okay. And do you recommend self-defense training for a particular group? Is it for everyone? What kind of physical shape do we need to be in to start learning self-defense?
Well, that's actually easy because this class is for any female, starting at age 12 and even younger if they wanted to. The parameters of the types of women that need it change a little bit as far as how much. Meaning that a female who might be single, who might be starting to go to clubs, who's putting themselves out, dating, meeting people that they don't know, they're going to put themselves in situations that are different than, let's say, a married mother who really, when they're out, the dangers are if you're walking out from a mall or if it's a home invasion. So anybody really needs this, and it's important for anybody, regardless of what position you're putting yourself into. As far as physically, I have the oldest participant I've had has been 84.
Wow.
And so obviously an 84-year-old isn't going to move as well as a 15 or 16-year-old high school girl athlete, but it doesn't matter, because what we're trying to do is teach them more the components of it and get them prepared in their mind as to what they can do. And you don't need to have a lot of physical ability to be able to do that. So when I get the phone call from somebody, my answer is, if you're a female and you're interested in learning, the class is perfect for you. That's
great. And so what about those women who they're not interested in learning because they say, that's never going to happen to me?
Yeah, and you get that a lot, unfortunately. And what I've put my focus on is I'm not going to sit there with a female and say, oh yes, it is going to happen to you, because the reality is, chances are it isn't going to. When you look at the amount of women that get attacked, it certainly isn't the majority of women. So we shift it a little bit and we say, you know, probably it's not going to happen. But just like anything in life that you're trying to learn or anything else, being prepared is the key. So if you put yourself through the class, even if it's one time, with the muscle memory that you get, with what you learn from it, it prepares them just in case. And that's really that shift we've gone to. Not that it's going to happen, but hey, just be prepared because you don't know what's going to happen.
So with that, can you speak to the women and encourage them, because there might be a lot of women that are fearful about the topic in general?
And the way that I address that is that, generally speaking, what we found is that the women who do prepare themselves, the women who do take classes, the women who do get involved, have less to fear about because of what we teach them in that. The empowerment, the awareness, all the components that go into it, you have less to be scared of. Most women really aren't scared of the topic unless they have been attacked or they have experienced some kind of an attack, in which case, unfortunately, a lot of them still won't address it and come into the class. So either way, whether it's because you've experienced it and there's fear or you don't think it's going to happen, it's just about gaining that information, and that's what we just try and keep pounding over and over again, that hopefully they understand.
So we've set up a lot of the concerns about self-defense and why it's important that you know self-defense. But how can, so I want to get to some of the solutions now. How can women avoid being attacked in the first place?
Well, there's three guidelines I give them. Okay, it's instincts, foresight, and awareness. Most women who have been attacked would tell you that right before it happened, they felt something wasn't right. Women have amazing instincts. They understand when something isn't right. They need to follow through with that. Foresight, if they're going to a club with friends, they need to realize that somebody needs to be the one to watch out for them and not let them go home with somebody that they don't know, and be able to work together to keep themselves safe. and awareness. And it's not just women and it's not just teens. We all nowadays walk around going through parking lots and texting and talking on the phone and everything else, and we're not aware of what's going on around us. And if we're much more aware of what's going on around us, we're much better prepared to protect ourselves. It doesn't mean being paranoid. I don't want to teach a community of women to be looking around and being worried. It's just being aware.
Okay, that makes sense. So what are the different types of attacks that could happen to a woman?
I really define them as two different ones. One's an acquaintance attack, and one would be a violent attack. Now, that doesn't mean that an acquaintance attack wouldn't be violent. We just describe them that way. And an acquaintance attack could be some kind of domestic violence. It could be some kind of a date rape situation. It could just be a bad situation with somebody that they know. A violent attack really is somebody that they don't know. That would be possibly some kind of a carjacking, or they're walking through a park and they get attacked, or a home invasion. The most important thing that I try and teach to women is that an attack's an attack. Okay? It's about power and it's about control, whether they know you or they don't know you. And there's not a man in the world who would attack a woman if he knew that she knew how to fight back. That's just not the psychological makeup of an attack.
Okay.
So to have that power, to have that empowerment, gives women the ability to handle either kind of attack.
Okay, so share with our viewers what some of the components are that make up good self-defense.
We really do three different components. The first one is more the mental part of it. With kids, we teach lures. We teach the tricks that strangers might try and do if a stranger's trying to get in touch with them. And with women, it's no different. If you're driving home at night and a policeman's behind you and it's a dark road, it doesn't mean you just have to pull over. It means that you can go to a crowded parking lot or call 911 and make sure that that's an actual policeman behind you. If somebody knocks on your door and says you have a gas leak, you have to let me in. It doesn't mean that we just need to let them in. It means that we need to be more aware of that. So we talk about that. We really talk about instincts. We really talk about the awarenesses that they need. I break down women's self-defense in two things: awareness and reaction. Be aware of what's going on, and if something does happen, be ready to react. And then we go into the physical part, which is the real kind of meat and potatoes of women's self-defense. We teach the strikes first. We teach the close-range strikes. I'm not trying to train a bunch of black belts, and I'm not trying to train a bunch of boxers, because if I'm this far away from somebody, I'm not going to, as they say, engage. We're not going to go ahead and have an altercation. So we're going to go ahead and use palm strikes and bottom fists and elbows and knees. And we're going to teach the women the places that we strike: the ears, the eyes, the throat, the solar plexus, the groin, the instep, the toes. And then what we do is we actually take them through attacks. My class is very different. I wear a full padded bodysuit, head to toe, because most women never get a chance to actually experience what it's like to hit somebody. So what we do is we go through the common attacks: a choke, a bear hug, a hair grab, and we methodically teach them. You do A, B, C, D, and E. Now after 2 hours, they're not going to remember that, and we don't expect that they're going to remember it. What we want to get out of that is that reaction. So at the very end, I put each woman in the middle of the room, they shut their eyes, and we simulate an attack. Now it's not a violent attack. We're doing exactly what we do in class. As I explained to them, all I want to see from them is, I want to see the reaction. I want to see them fight and claw and do anything you have to do until that attacker is on the ground or at a safe place where you can go ahead and get away.
All right, well, we have more information about that, so we're going to go to this roll, and we'll be back in just a second.
So we're doing 4 moves on this one. We're doing a pluck, palm strike, knees, and elbow. So just go slow first. Good. Good. Just slow. Make sure you keep that distance. Okay, keep that distance, because your arm actually ended up over your head like that. Okay? So we want to try and keep that distance right there. There you go. Good job. Good. Good job, you guys. Oh, you're okay. You're okay. I know you guys are nice job. No, come here. Now you cheated out, but actually I think it's easier if you take my shoulders at this point and throw me on the ground. There you go. Perfect. Perfect. That was awesome. Right. So by far, I'd say that it's just an incredibly empowering class that everybody, regardless with this program or any program, that everybody should really take to have that training.
So that looks pretty physical to me, Jay. Is this all or just about being physical?
It's not about just being physical. As we talked about before, the awareness, the mental part of it is really should be 80 or 90% of it. If you follow that awareness tactic, I always like to give a challenge to the women in my class. The same challenge was given to me in martial arts, and that is for 2 weeks, be very aware of what's going on around you. Be looking around, not to be paranoid, but is it 90 degrees and someone's wearing a trench coat? Has somebody been following you from store to store? Just be aware, because if we can go ahead and start building that awareness, statistics show that if you're aware of what's going on, you understand what it is that you're doing, you have a better chance to avoid that situation and never be put to where you have to do something like that.
So in these classes, you spend about 2 hours getting beat on by these women. Yes. Why do you do it?
I ask myself that question every night when I get home and take my Advil. It's, you know what, quite honestly, it's just such a gratifying class to be able to teach. I teach a lot of different classes to a lot of different people. There's not a class that I teach that I enjoy more than that, because it's immediate empowerment. To see these women, some of them so shy that they won't even hit me at the start of it, and at the end they're beating me like I'm their worst enemy, is the most gratifying thing that you can do. And because I can. I was blessed with the ability to be able to understand what I need to do and to be able to allow to give that service out. I see classes all the time where they don't have a suit, where women are just hitting pads, and it's great, you learn stuff, but it goes back to that street smarts versus book smarts. You have to experience what it feels like to have hands around your neck or arms around you, and what you would do in that situation. And if you don't do that, it's just a disservice to the class. So I do it because I can, and because just trying to keep the women of this community a little bit safer.
So what is your goal for these women that take the class?
My goal is that they walk out of there with that feeling of empowerment. When I start the class, I explain to them that I want them to have the mentality of a warrior. Okay, in 2 hours, as I said, I'm not going to make them into a black belt. That's not going to happen. But what I am trying to do is get their mentality set to where if they ever are in attack, whether it's somebody they know or somebody they don't know, that their mentality is, you picked the wrong person on the wrong day, and now you're going to pay for what happened. And if they can walk out with that confidence, walk out with that empowerment, walk out with the knowledge they know what they can do, then my job's done, and it's been a good class.
That's great. Well, I am encouraged, I'm motivated to get with Jay and take his class. The information is available for you. If you'd like more information, contact Jay and let him give you some more information about how you can get involved in that, because your life is important. You do need to be protected, and you do need to be prepared. Thanks for joining us on today's program. We'll see you again next week.
This program has been sponsored by the Trinity Broadcasting Network and made possible by your telethon dollars. Your continual support can keep Joy in Our Town brought to your home every day. So write Joy in Our Town, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711.